So Carlos, the question on everyone's mind is how do we get back to business?
Yeah, John, that's a great question. J.A.R BIO and the Medibios machine is the way back to getting to business. What we have on our hands is a product and a service that's going to be able to disinfect any space, and not just the surfaces that we're all focusing on right now, but the air and everything that's around it, every nook and cranny. And so by being able to deliver our product into hospital rooms, retail locations, long-term care, hotels such as the Exploria one that we're at right now, it's going to give the consumer as well as the employees that are associated with those brands and those spaces the confidence that everything has been disinfected to the level of a hotel room. So that's how we get back to business.
Excellent. So you guys understand this could be very well the next microwave.
Yeah, I very much believe so. I think as the industry and COVID continues to evolve, that we're going to see agencies such as the FDA become the ones that are going to be regulating this, right? I think we've already seen that begin with the FDA tapping the EPA and saying there's a problem with some of the sanitizers that are being used. I think the government's already putting some pressure on the CDC. So, if I had to guess today, I would say that it's going in that direction, right? We're at the bottom of a mountain right now and we're climbing to a peak, and at that peak is going to be regulatory agencies that are going to require a certified level of disinfection in every space, because I think the reality is that everyone is very cautious, as they should be.
Right.
We should all be following CDC guidelines. But at some point or another, there's going to have to be an agency that's going to say, hey, the people that are cleaning your space are not doing it to the level that we are expecting them to, and if that continues, then the virus will continue to go as well.
Right. So in addition to the FDA approval, what other approvals does this machine and this process have at this point?
Right, John. So yeah, as you know, we're registered with the FDA, and it's a big deal. Why is that a big deal? Is because the FDA is the agency that regulates the hospital system.
Right.
Right, and so we are at the highest tier of regulation when it comes to the machine and what it can do. The proprietary product, the solution that goes into the machine, is registered on the EPA N1 list, and then we also have the ISO certification, which is a big deal, right? Not a lot of folks are familiar with that. ISO stands for International Standardization Organization, and what that means is that the machine and the solution that goes in the machine can repeat the results as a standard over and over and over again. And that's accomplished, that certification is accomplished through going through various trials and testing it out and making sure that it does in fact accomplish those results over and over again.
And for those of you that don't know, these certifications and registrations are not easy to get. They take a while to get the process in place.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's actually a great point. On top of that, I would add that this machine, our company, and the process that we're delivering is not something that just developed because of COVID. Right. The machine has actually been on the market, being used in hospitals 5 years prior to 2020, before any of this even existed or it was even thought of. And the reason why it existed was because there are hospital-borne illnesses that were starting to grow, and a lot of it had to do with the human error, right? So, John, as you and I well know, we walk into a hotel or we walk into a restaurant or we walk into any space and we look around, and that's our measurement of cleanliness. And what was happening, and still to this day, is that humans, we do the best that we can.
Right.
But the reality is that the machine does a much better, much more efficient job with a much higher degree of efficacy. And so by introducing the Medibios into any space, you make sure, you're certain that nothing was missed. And that's a big difference.
Taking out the human error.
That's right. It's human error, and on top of that, it's really no touch. So, I think that's a good segue into how does the machine actually work, right? So what we do is we deploy a technician who has been certified by the manufacturer to be able to use the machine in whatever spaces. In a space such as the one that we're in right now, that we decontaminated before our meeting, is they plug in the cubic feet inside of the space.
Right.
The machine takes that information, and then the computer inside of the machine says, this is how much solution we have to deploy into the space in order to penetrate every nook and cranny according to the manufacturer's protocols.
Right.
Then the technician sets the machine to begin, and everyone obviously should be outside of the space when this is going on. Not that it's unhealthy, but it can be a little bit irritating. And we want the machine to use up all the space, so the more things that are in there, the more it's going to have to use. And so once it begins to deploy into the air, it fills up the air like a balloon. And that's really the best way I can explain it, John, is imagine your room being a balloon, right? And so the walls, the ceilings, the floor is the rubber of the balloon. The machine fills that balloon with air, and so it tightens up the air, it fills the air with the solution, and that's how it reaches every single space.
Right.
And that's where it's most effective. And then what you want to do is you want to wait a good 30 minutes minimum before you re-enter the space. That way you make sure that the level of disinfection has reached its full potential, and then you're kind of good to go, right? And so, what happens to all of that you've just put into the air? Well, it's fantastic. Because it's a hydrogen peroxide-based solution, the moment that you ventilate the space, either by opening a door or through your ventilation system, it's biodegradable, right? So you put it in, it disinfects. The moment you ventilate the room with oxygen or water, it's immediately biodegradable, and then it's safe for re-entry.
Excellent, excellent. Food grade. And one thing I want you to make sure that you understand here, what's important, that he said that this is not just a gimmick that came out recently because of this corona conniption fit, whatever you want to call it. This machine's been around for how many years?
Yeah, 5 years. When they started registering the patent, it was approved in 2017.
Okay.
And so since then, it's actually been in use in the United States.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. And where are these machines being used now?
So they're being used at various hospitals, federal agencies are using them in emergency departments. They're being used in hotels to clean rooms. They're being used in medical spas, restaurants, grocery stores, in factories that put the groceries together into crates and then deliver them to the stores. Where they're being seen in Whole Foods is one of the big retail chains that's using the machine as well, to make sure that their kind of back of the house operations is being disinfected before everything's being brought forward. So we're seeing that the machine has a lot of commercial uses outside of the hospital and the healthcare system, and that's what we're doing. We are trying to do and use every resource that we can, and that's why we're so grateful to have folks like you that want to learn more about it and help us get the word out, right? Because what we are doing is introducing this hospital-grade process into your space.
Right.
And so what comfort would you have as a client or as a customer or as an employee to hear that that location has been disinfected to hospital-grade level?
And in less than an hour, which is important because
Yes.
it's not a time frame that, it could take 5 hours to physically clean a building, to sweep it, mop it, but this is a sterilization process that goes beyond removing dirt and wiping cabinets down, etc.
That's right, and John, and to add on to that, we are not the be-all, end-all, right? So let me clarify too. It is important that people continue to follow the CDC recommended guidelines, whether that be face masks and temperature checks and things like that, until we get to a point where we do feel like we have better control of the virus. But also from a cleaning standpoint, companies need to understand that they need to do a much better job than they ever did before. Because frankly, no customer is going to accept the cleaning practices of the past ever again, right? I think we're all super clear on that. So they have to do a better job doing what they were doing already. We're seeing a lot of companies that are using electrostatic guns, which I think is helpful in the process, but that's really one piece. You're getting to a certain level of disinfection there,
Right.
but it's not until you introduce our machine, our process, that you're really able to get 99.99% disinfection of the entire space, right? Because think about it for a moment. Your cleaning company, they use a solution and a wipe, if you will, or a rag to clean the top of a table.
Right.
Okay? And so they might miss a couple of spots there, but that's all right because you have an electrostatic machine that comes across and then covers the entire table. But what about underneath of the table? What about the floors? What about the walls? And now, there's confirmation that the virus is airborne.
Right.
And so that's where we can help, and we can help both on the prevention side by having regular treatments of the space, or a restoration side, which is, hey, I know that John Smith, my employee, just tested positive with COVID. What do I do?
Right.
Well, you call J.A.R BIO, we'll come out, we'll provide a service, we'll get your disinfection completed. The machine will certify it, not me, the company, not a human on a computer. The machine will certify that it deployed the appropriate amount of solution to disinfect that space, that then you can tell the rest of your employees while John is in quarantine, and tell your customers that the space has been certified disinfected.
And you have a way to test to show that the place is at a certain level of cleanliness, and then again be able to test after to show that it is 99.99% sterile.
Absolutely, and I think the industry overall is going to begin to see more of that. And what you're referring to is the ATP meter, and we're starting to use that. It's something that the industry, I think, is going to start accepting. And the reason why is, how do you change behavior? You change through measurement. Right? And so it's not just pass or fail, but if I am able to use my ATP meter to test the amount of microbacteria that's in this particular part of this chair before and after, then I can really see how much efficacy your cleaning practices are. And so that will probably occur for a much higher level of client, a hospital or something like that, for example. Schools may want to entertain using that as well. But I think what's important is that inside of your protocols, you have a disinfection process such as ours to make sure that you get everything to as close to zero infection as possible.
So remember this, guys, less than a half an hour, food grade, safe for electronics, safe for humans, safe for food or touchable surfaces. And I like the explanation you gave earlier. This gets into the grout, this gets into the air conditioning, it gets into the light switches, it gets everywhere that a human can't wipe down. And because it is electronic safe, the example you gave earlier I think is perfect. You can wipe a keyboard on a computer down, but you can't wipe underneath the keys. This process gets into the electronics, it gets underneath the keys. It's that thorough. I'm really impressed with it.
We're excited, and if you have more questions, obviously we have a lot of information. You can visit our website, sterilroomnow.com, or you can actually contact one of our sales reps or one of our customer service reps at 1-800-557-3037. We're ready to help. We want to get our economy started again, but we want to do things the right way, with the right equipment, with the right agency certifications, to make sure that we don't have to go backwards.
You heard it, 1-800-557-3037, sterilroomnow.com. I'm John Wayne, this is Carlos. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, and thank you, John.